friends ever since.
As a rapidly rising YouTube superstar, it's obviously critically important that all of my hordes of fans are able to hear every single detail of my droll Glaswegian accent with as much clarity as possible. And for that reason, I've had to put a lot of time and thought into finding a microphone that will give me the right balance between features, audio quality, but also flexibility. Now, on-camera shotgun microphones can be really good. I have one that I like in particular with dual capsules. However, what I've found is that in the studio, when I'm moving around and I want to show people things, perhaps a synthesizer or something, that means that when I move the camera away from my face, I'm also moving the microphone, and so my voice level dips, and it means that you don't get a nice consistent sound. In order to avoid that or get around that, you can use a clip-on tie mic or a clip-on lavalier mic if you want to call it that. And these are great because the microphone always stays in the same place, so you get a nice consistent audio level. However, they're not particularly practical in a kind of studio environment like this, because let's say I'm filming a video and I want to, go get a synthesizer or a bit of gear from across the room. It means that I have to drag the camera with the cable and everything across there, and you quickly get tangled up. And I just don't like this whole thing about how you're kind of permanently tethered to the camera for the duration of filming. It kind of puts me off doing the whole thing in the first place. Now, as a result of all of this, I've been looking at wireless microphones, and the one that everybody kind of knows or uses, the kind of industry leading wireless microphone for this kind of thing, is the Rode Wireless Go 2. I have one of the transmitters here, which is also a microphone, and you've probably seen these on other YouTube channels because, as I said, these are extremely popular. Now, I did flirt for a while with the idea of using some of the cheaper wireless microphones that you can find out there, on sites like AliExpress and stuff like that. However, when I looked into it a bit more, I found that they're not actually that much cheaper than the Rode microphones are, and also they don't get a particularly good name in terms of signal strength or audio quality or noise floor or anything like that. So I was talking to Rode about this, and they offered to send me a kit to try out for myself. They did send it to me for free, but to be honest, I was going to buy them anyway, so that was just a nice wee bonus. But I do have to say that whether I bought these or not, these have become indispensable in my camera video production kind of thing, and honestly, I really, really like these. When it comes to the actual units themselves, you get one receiver which you can connect up to your camera or your phone or whatever it might be. There's a 3.5mm TRS output on those, and then you either get a single or dual pack of transmitters, and that's what that was I was showing you earlier. Now, the transmitter is effectively a microphone and also the thing that transmits the signal over onto the receiver. You get this nice wee dead cat, as we used to call them, so that you can use it outside, and this will mitigate the effect of the wind on the microphone. But if you want to use an additional microphone or kind of like a third-party external microphone, say a lavalier microphone that you've got and you want to clip on in a certain place, there are 3.5mm microphone inputs on the transmitters, so you don't have to use the built-in mic or have this bulky kind of pack clipped onto the front of your shirt or whatever, which is actually a really nice touch. Now, all of the units charge over USB-C, and they also have a clip on the back, which might seem like a really obvious and kind of basic thing. However, these clips are designed in such a way that they can be mounted on to the hot shoe or cold shoe mount of your camera, which is actually really quite clever, and it means that you don't have to faff about with adapters or anything like that to get them to fit, which is, great. Coming on to some of the things that I really like about the Rode Wireless Go 2. First of all, I find it is much more discreet to use the wireless receiver than it is to stick a big shotgun microphone on top of your camera. Because at the end of the day, I'm a bit of a, shy, retiring individual. And the last thing I want to do when I'm out and about recording is advertise the fact that I'm doing a fucking stupid YouTube video or whatever. And so if I just put the wireless receiver on top of the camera, it's much more discreet, much less conspicuous, and I can go about my day without being bothered by people who, want to get my autograph and stuff like that. So much more discreet, which is a big plus for me. Now, the second thing that I find really useful about the Wireless Go 2 applies if you have two transmitters, and this is because you can split the signal that is sent from both so that one goes into the left channel and one goes into the right. And so when you come into post-production, you can split both of those channels and mix them independently. And as you can imagine, this becomes really useful in a variety of situations. For example, if you're doing an interview with somebody and you're walking about and you can't use a kind of shotgun microphone microphone for all the reasons I've explained about, you know, the dynamics and everything else. This means that you can give somebody one of your microphones or your transmitters. You can keep one transmitter and you'll get a nice kind of consistent signal for both people, even if you're walking around. And I've been using this for things like podcasts, you know, where you want a kind of portable rig and you don't want to carry, you know, an audio recorder and have separate microphone inputs and all that kind of thing. Another really handy thing that you could do with the two transmitters is plug in a second sound source into the second transmitter so that you could talk about something whilst also demoing it, which, as you can imagine, would be useful with synthesizers. This would mean that you could talk about your synth, you could play it, and you could have all of the audio synced up nicely and neatly within the camera without having to worry about getting a second audio recorder or anything like that. Now obviously this is only going to really work with mono outputs because we have a stereo channel and each one is mono. However, in a pinch or as a way to quickly record demos that only require mono, then this is an excellent time-saving device, at least for me. Here's an example of what I mean. I've got my pocket operator here, which is plugged into one of my transmitters, and I am using the other one as a microphone. Another thing that I really like about these is that you can use them as standalone audio recorders because they have onboard recording capabilities of their own, and it's something like 7 hours of uncompressed audio or 43 hours of compressed audio, which is really quite impressive. And this means that if you're out and about and you want to record something and you don't have a handheld audio recorder like a Zoom H1 or whatever it might be, then these will let you record directly into them. And you can also use these as a kind of backup recording source if you are recording audio onto a handheld recorder, because I'm sure anybody that's done videos or anything like this will tell you that every so often you record something onto a handheld audio recorder and then realise that the battery ran out halfway through because they don't seem to get very good battery life on those recorder things. But if that was the case, you could also be simultaneously recording onto your Rode wireless mics that have got 7 hours of battery life, and it would save your day. So that's another really nice feature, and you can use the kind of Rode Central software and go in and tweak all those settings and stuff, which is, you know, that's the place to look. Another thing about the Rode Central software actually, which is pretty cool, is that initially I was thinking there's LEDs on these and they're actually quite bright, so if you've got them on your chest or, you know, on your pocket or whatever it might be, they can shine through, and I couldn't see any way to turn down the brightness of them, which seemed like a bit of an oversight. However, no, Rode have thought about that as well, and within Rode Central software you can actually dim them, which, I mean, that was going to be one of the things I was going to say was a downside of these, but Rode have been one step ahead the whole time, so. There's a couple of things that I'm going to do now to give you a test so that you can hear the difference or see some of the things that make these worth the money, I guess. The first one being the audio difference between using these and then using a shotgun microphone. And so I'm going to do a wee bit of a demonstration of that just now. And then after that, I'm going to do a demonstration where I walk and talk to the camera so that you can get an idea of not just the distance that you can get from these microphones with them still picking up sound, but also that if you have objects in the way, that they still maintain a good signal. That in particular is one of the things that the non-branded kind of wireless microphones are not particularly good at, and in some cases I've even seen certain microphones that when you turn your back to the camera, the signal cuts out because it can't go through the body particularly well, which is obviously not very good in this kind of setup. This is a test of the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphone. I'm not using the wind muffler thing, and the microphone is pointed at a 90-degree angle away from my mouth. I will of course be using compression and everything on all of these examples because nobody uses any of this audio straight out of the camera without doing any treatment. This is an audio test with the built-in microphone on the Sony ZV-E10. I am talking about the same level, sitting about the same distance from the camera and all that crap. As you can probably tell, I am no scientist. This is a microphone test using the Deity Duo, I believe it's V4 or something like that. It is plugged into my Sony ZV-E10 and I've only got the front capsule active at the moment. I don't have the rear capsule active. This is the Deity Duo V4 or whatever it is again, but this time I've enabled both capsules to record so you can hear what it sounds like when you've got the front and rear, which might seem a bit stupid when I'm doing a talking head kind of thing, but if you're in the situation where you're moving the camera about, it is is fairly likely that you would have it set up with both of them active. For my final test, I'm using a Boya clip-on lavalier microphone. It's a fairly bog standard cheap lavalier. In the interests of fairness, I'm also pointing this particular microphone at a 90-degree angle to my face, so it's not up and direct at my mouth. This is me walking away with this microphone and my dog to see how far away I can get. Although he won't come! Come on, let's go. Come. Over the past few months, I have been using the Rode Wireless Go 2 setup fairly intensively. I've used them on pretty much every video that I've done, apart from when I've forgotten to plug them in. But I have to say that genuinely they are really fantastic. And I would say that whether or not Rode had sponsored this video, whether you trust me or not is a totally different matter. But it is true, I would buy them tomorrow if I lost these or damaged them. They've just made everything so much easier. And I've been trying to think of some things to say about them, which, you know, you might want to be aware of, or might be downsides or something like that. And I genuinely, honestly, haven't been able to think about too much. There are a couple of things that you might want to know, or which, you know, I could have picked up on. The first one being that every wireless microphone will have a higher noise floor than a wired microphone. That's just kind of the way it is. And there is some hiss that you'll notice on these if you crank up the gain or the compression or whatever. But to be honest, it isn't something that I have really noticed as an issue at all. But I'm sure some people will talk about it or ask about it. There is some noise floor that's inescapable with wireless microphones. It's just the way it is. It's not bad at all in any way, shape or form. The only other improvement that I could think of for the Rode Wireless Go 2 would be one that is basically just to cure or aid my own idiocy, and that is that sometimes I may well forget to properly charge these before I use them, and I may or may not have on multiple occasions realised after recording that the battery in one of these has run out before the end of the video, and so I've spent 20 or so minutes recording video but with no audio, and that is entirely my own fault. It's not Rode's fault at all. The battery life in these is more than adequate enough. However, it would be wonderful if there was some kind of option within the Rode Central software to turn on an audible beep, perhaps, right before these shut off, so that I would know that I had no battery left and didn't keep recording. But again, that is the most kind of weird specific thing. It's not Rode's fault at all. It's more just an example of my own idiocy. And to be honest, I guess illustrates just how good these are in general, that that's the only thing I could ask for as an improvement. Anyway, those are the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphones. They are genuinely as good as they seem to be. There's a reason why so many people use them, because they're dependable, solid, flexible, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm really glad that